would like to sincerely welcome everyone here today. I'm Alyaa Azhar and I will be the moderator for today's debate. So I have here Datuk Chua Yong, who is the Labis Member of Parliament, and YB Sivarasa, who is the MP for Subang.
Sure.
And they today will be debating on the role of Parliament, of what should and should not be discussed in the Dewan Rakyat. So YB, are there certain things that probably can be discussed, anything and everything under the sun that can be discussed, or should there be certain limitations to what that can be discussed in the Dewan Rakyat? Your thoughts, YB?
Sure. Okay. Right. Fine. I'll kick off with, and then I think it's a great topic you've picked today. The role of Parliament is very relevant, and I think this interview is a useful opportunity also for me to clarify one of the initial controversies in this week's Parliament debates, which is about the King's speech. We follow the English tradition, where the King opens Parliament and delivers his tita, the Raja, and which is debated. So this time we saw, there was an issue brought up that the leader of the opposition, Dr. Syed Ibrahim, had the word used was telah menghina Raja, by making what appeared to be a critical comment on the content of the speech, especially about the bit about the elections. So that I think it's important to explain, because this session of Parliament we will be basically debating the King's speech, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding on the part of many MPs about what the King's speech is about. The impression is being given, oh, you cannot disagree with the King's speech and all that. And this is where I found, I just like to quote very quickly. This is a text from the UK government's website explaining the Queen's speech, because we follow the Westminster tradition, and it's very simple. The Queen's speech sets out the government policies and proposed legislative program for the new parliamentary session. Next subtopic, who writes the speech? Although the speech is delivered by the Queen, the content of the speech is entirely drawn up by the government and approved by the cabinet. And then following the state opening, the government's program is debated by both houses. So this is what we responded and said. The King's speech is the opinion, the views of the government of the day, just speaking through the King. We have a constitutional monarchy. It does not mean that we cannot critique, cannot disagree with the contents of the King's speech. That's not what it's about. It's to be debated. And the King's speech covers a fair range of issues. And in this opening session, as Dr. Chua will also confirm, we can debate anything. In our speeches, we can raise any issue and comment. And if we follow the Westminster tradition properly, actually the bulk of the time on the King's speech or the Queen's speech there is actually reserved for the opposition to spend more time on critiquing, because it is through the King's speech or the Queen's speech there that the government presents its legislative program. What it proposes to do in this session and forthcoming sessions, what bills is going to pass, what new laws, why, and so on. So I think it's a point I want to clear first, and I'd also like to touch on something else, which is reform of Parliament. I think it's good the Prime Minister is talking about transformation, political transformation, and I would urge him to apply that to Parliament as an institution, because in my opinion, it's high time that the Malaysian Parliament caught up with other modern parliaments. I regret to say this, that I think we have fallen back. Many other parliaments have moved on, and we can do no better than to look at our neighbour, Indonesia, for example. We don't have to go to Australia or UK anymore, although we follow those traditions. So my point is this: what is the role of Parliament? Parliament is supposed to function as a check and balance on the executive, right? And Parliament itself, don't forget, you have the government, which is the form of the cabinet, you have the backbenchers of the government, and you have the opposition. Sometimes people forget the backbenchers are also distinct. They have a different role. So in my view, the opposition and to some extent the backbenchers provide the role of check and balance. So we are there to question and to respond. Although of course, as far as backbenchers are concerned, they will have to be consistent with government policy. They can't stand up and critique government.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I definitely disagree with that. I think in a lot of the aspects you've mentioned, from the King's speech and everything, basically I think in Parliament, of course, most of the things you could debate. But I think in Parliament, it's not a forum where you accuse one another. I hope that is something that in this session, it's not there, whereby a fellow MP suddenly stands up and say that you are a murderer or you were there or something like that. I think this is something uncalled for also. So I think in this round of Parliament session, the first week, I would say there's some sign of this called bipartisan in some of the issues because it affects everyone. For example, the haze issue, the Jonker Walk, which is something which is significant in the whole Malaysia because it's a tourism spot. Everyone knows it. Regarding the King's speech, I think the contention was that the way it was put is like as if the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, when the speech is presented to him, he would have no say to whether he agrees or disagrees with it. I think that part is also a bit of a misconception. I think in terms of debating, it has been since Merdeka days until now, whenever there is a Parliament session, we always debate on the King's speech. Of course, the King's speech this round has touched quite a lot, including accepting the election results. One thing that I could not really understand is the cherry picking by the opposition in terms of the election results. Areas where they win, they swear in very fast to form the state government. For federal government, they couldn't form the government, so we could really see that they are really gathering the rakyat, trying to do rallies, especially from the PKR side, because past some of the members have openly mentioned that they have already accepted the results. Same with EAP. I accept that as an opposition, you got the right to contest certain elections results that you are not satisfied. I think that's democratically allowed. You could file a petition and do all the necessary. But I think with filing the petition, you really have an avenue to do what you need to do. So I think it's also high time that we move forward in certain aspects of this. In terms of saying that all the backbenchers will always agree with all the policies that the government has and it's never critiqued. I think number one, the computing bill, the professional computing bill, which was previously proposed, I've objected to it personally. I'm saying, just let me give some examples.
No, but you must respond
so,
to it. I've never
so,
not objecting.
So,
my friend here must not, don't do the false debate. The false debate is saying something I've never said it.
Moving forward.
No, let's set the rules of the debate.
Okay.
The debate is you do not make false accusations about what I said. I never accuse you of never criticizing the government. No, I didn't say that. So let's stop that immediately. Okay. I'm describing the role, the general role.
You were saying that I have to agree according to the guidelines.
No, we're setting the framework. I'm not talking about specific instances. I didn't accuse you. I didn't say you're a bodek kaki. I didn't say that. You are feeling defensive and responding as if I called you.
No, I have to give an example.
No, I
want to set the rules. You must not play this. What do you call the classic debate tricks? Don't put something in my mouth which I never said. So let me go back to the point. The point is this. What did I say? I said the role of backbenchers is you don't have to be like the opposition, but the role of backbenchers is also to be a check and balance on the.
You say check and balance, I agree.
And you have done it. That's exactly what I said.
Okay, YB, just want to check with you.
Yeah.
Okay, YB Chua.
But I got to reply to this thing about elections also.
Alright.
The point about elections. This is what we are saying in short, and I think you must understand this point. The fact that you're saying we're cherry picking. Cherry picking, no, what we're saying is there are major areas of concern. We say the SPR committed deliberate fraud by deliberately causing the indelible ink to fail. And I think that's an argument you can't answer because.
Same with the Bangla, which you can't answer.
Sorry,
the Bangla
even when times
a few things actually I'd like to move forward.
Sure.
Actually. Right now,
he opened it up because so I have to reply to it and you can decide whether you want to play it or not.
No,
but
because you have a short time frame.
Sure, but he's going to other issues. So.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, question to YB Chua.
I would rather stick to just Parliament and focus on Parliament. In fact, I want to develop the point. See, I think we both agree that backbenchers have a role, and you rightly pointed out that you have also critiqued. What I'm saying is that should be the role.
Yeah.
You support general policies as a whole. You can't disagree with BN's policies.
Yeah.
But you play a role of check and balance in terms of the administration. If the administration is wrong, I think backbenchers should play the role. The point I want to make is this. The current institution of Parliament is not up to mark in its institutional setup. This is my point. We have to move on and develop an effective committee system in this parliament, which we don't have. The Indonesian parliament, every modern parliament has a committee system, and it's only through a committee system. And these
that we
committees
discuss on certain things, try to
these are
resolve certain things
these are
before
standing
the
committees.
bill.
Standing committees, for example, okay? Every modern parliament will have a standing committee on defense, on health, on public transport, on all key ministries. So the Indonesian parliament, for example, has 12 committees, they call it committees. That is bipartisan, it is sometimes chaired by the government, sometimes chaired by the opposition MP.
Maybe if the topic is too wide, I'm not trying to do anything.
Actually,
basically, maybe if the topic is too wide, things like what you're saying, a standing committee, it can be issue driven, like for instance, trying to reduce car prices, which everyone wants.
But difficult, difficult, you know why?
I have a question to you, Chua, actually. Okay, Chua. As a Barisan National Backbencher, I'm sure that you have certain things that's close to your heart, certain bills or certain issues that you want to raise in the parliament that's close to your heart. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit as a Barisan National Backbencher. What are the issues close to your heart that you feel that should be addressed by the current parliamentary session?
I think in this current parliamentary session, there are quite a lot of few issues that we need to address. I mean, we have to acknowledge the fact that crime is a problem, which we hope in this parliament session, at least the relevant ministry could actually outline to us, instead of just increasing police presence, what are the measures taken to probably resolve the root cause, whether a study was done as to why suddenly there was a spike in crime, number one. Number two, I also hope that this round I've actually submitted questions on affordable housing, but I didn't have a chance to do my soalan tambahan because there's just too many people. How does the government intend to work with all the relevant state governments, whether it's BN, whether it's Pakatan Rakyat, to look into this problem, which is becoming a pressing issue? And also, to me, the other one is income level, how to continue progressing as a nation, whereby our inequality doesn't increase. I think these are the three key issues that I have at this moment, which I feel is becoming a problem, especially in urban areas. I mean, the non-urban areas is also becoming a slight problem, whereby increasing level of income, economic activity is all becoming a slowdown because of the urbanization. So you are having this problem where towns are becoming like deserted. So Malaysia has to have a balanced growth to a certain extent. Of course, the other issues like basically in terms of the work policies that we have for foreign workers, all these are things which come hand in hand, and these are the things that I'll probably even touch probably in the debate with the King's Speech, or even the budget policy, or even before that. So these are probably some of the things that I would try to bring up, because there are a lot of others, but I don't think you have time to say everything also. Even with the King's debate, I don't think most of us get time even when we stand up. I think probably when we get 5-10 minutes. See.
Let me pick up from
what about you?
See, I agree those are some of the issues that I think are key. We have, of course, additional issues, corruption, etc. But I think you have touched on some of the key points: crime, inequality, the uneven development. All these are key issues. But I need to go back to, and these issues have been raised before. In the last 5 years, in my first term, I think I saw these issues raised every session, literally, and they will continue to be raised. I think now, for me, what I would rather focus on is the institution itself has to develop a better capacity to discuss this. That's my concern now. Otherwise, we're going to be ventilating issues, and then the issues go nowhere. So what I'm saying is, the Malaysian Parliament has to evolve into a modern parliament, develop an effective committee system, standing committee system, where then there is a far better check and balance on the executive, especially the civil service. You know what standing committees do? They discuss bills in detail, in public, no doubt, not in secret. They summon bureaucrats, civil servants, key civil servants, come before it, answer questions. And this is far more effective than us standing up and making speeches and asking general questions which sometimes are answered, sometimes are not answered. So that is what I'm saying, and we must find some common ground on this. In other words, if we want Parliament to be a real effective check and balance, this is the way it has to go. Otherwise,
has to work.
otherwise it's going to be more of a talk shop. And I'm sorry to say
That's a
this.
question for you, YB.
Yeah.
So do you really think that the Parliament has really played its role as check and balance to the Parliament, or
Not really.
is it merely a rubber stamp in approving
well,
the executive branch's decisions?
When you say rubber stamp, at the end of the day, the Barisan Nasional has a majority, and of course, with that working majority, they can steamroll any legislation, which is what happens, or approve any, like say, anything they want.
But
I
the
think
backbenchers don't just steamroll.
No, of course, the backbenchers would speak up. I agree.
And we have actually rejected bills, amended bills also.
The point is the institution is not a check and balance as it is currently framed. That's my point. So how do we improve it? That's what I'm trying to focus on.
I think improving it also
Very
requires...
quickly, select committees is one. Second one, I just want to very quickly, then you can respond. Our question system, even our question system is totally out of date. Let me give you an example. We given our questions 2 weeks before the start of the first meeting, before the start of the meeting. That's in the standing orders. For me, that's completely out of date. In fact, that's very restrictive, and in fact, it hampers the MPs' jobs, both in the opposition and the backbenchers, from being effective questioners of the government. Let me compare modern parliaments. Okay, so the point I'm making is this: if I'm writing my question 2 weeks before the start of the meeting, especially like I think the October session, but it's 3 months later it's answered. It's bussy, it's gone. It's irrelevant sometimes. In the New Zealand Parliament, any MP can frame the written question in the morning, which must be answered in the afternoon. In the UK Parliament, it's 3 days notice. So in other words, even in the third week of Parliament, let's say from now, something happens, something important, I can frame the question and the relevant minister will answer 3 days later. I mean, that's according to UK practice. In New Zealand, the same day. I think we need to move to things like that.
Okay,
I think these are what you call progress that you need.
Yes.
As the parliament develops and as the nation progress. The other thing I would like to add on is the time for you to debate on bills. I think you will agree. It's also very unhealthy that we have to stay up to wee hours until there was one session where the time actually they had to stop the clock.
Yes.
And it ended at something like 3 a.m. I think rushing through bills is also something unhealthy, which I think you would agree, right, maybe?
Absolutely.
But if you look at some of the other parliaments, they actually have longer sessions than us. UK, for instance, they sit longer than us compared to Malaysia. We have averaged something like 80 days or something like that. UK ends up something like 120 to 150 days. So maybe that's the reason why sometimes it seems that we are rushing, because we're trying to catch up with time. And that also creates an unhealthy work-life balance for the YPs also, I think.
Sure. No, I totally agree about the timing. The UK probably is longer because they have 500 to 600 MPs. That's partly. But so they need more time for that reason alone. But what you're right about the restricted time. How modern parliaments deal with that is committee system. In committees which are all running concurrently, you have 10, 15 committees or even 20 running concurrently. Let's see, now there's an important bill. In our session, for example, we have the Islamic enactments which are being tabled for Wilayah Persekutuan. Very important bill. But in UK, for example, that would go first to a committee. The committee would debate it. And debate in public, it's not a private debate. So it's debated, the public sees the debate, we get a lot more time because it's a committee, it's 15, 20 people, and we spend much more time on the details and the policy.
Sorry, coming to the committee, this is a question I'd like to pose for you, Chua.
Yes.
This issue on committees being set up to scrutinize bills from the Defence Ministry, agriculture, whatsoever, okay, it's an issue that I believe the opposition has been raising for quite some time. Okay, as a Barisan backbencher, as a Barisan backbencher, okay, you've seen, you have second time the backbencher. So do you agree that we need to have such a committee?
You see, the thing is how you approach it. You see, when I was in the Ministry of Agriculture, for instance, I've actually looked into this in the sense of trying to get public participation, regardless of parties, regardless of NGO. So if you recall, when I was inside, I've actually made sure and spoke to the minister and the relevant ministry to ensure that the bill that I was trying to push through in front of the animal welfare bill, it was going through this public process where in the event that there doesn't even need to have a committee in this event, whereby what happened was that we published it to the website, we had an open day, we had 2 rounds in fact of open comments whereby we do not even restrict whether you're an opposition, whether you're a BN, whether you're an NGO. Maybe that may be a first step that they should look at. Maybe towards working committee will be something too sudden. Working towards opening for debates on a certain bill before tabling to Parliament will be something that also will provide an effective avenue. And with that, I've noticed that the acceptance of this bill is much higher. And the response is that a lot of the relevant parties, the NGOs are also very much happy, I think, if I recall. And all of them were basically hoping that this bill could be pushed through.
Okay, pushing, let's say, moving forward in terms of this. I mean, you mentioned just now it's a first step getting this public for, I mean, engaging the public in the animal welfare, which I think is a good first step.
Yeah.
Okay, moving forward, if let's say, for example, that do we need to have what they call a permanent committees? I mean, a set of permanent committees. Do you agree? We need to have permanent committees. Representatives from both sides. I mean, not only both sides, civil society and so forth. Do you agree that maybe moving forward we should have a permanent?
I think moving forward that would be something that would be good.
One thing, because I think there's a misconception. What in your frame in your question, in Parliament you cannot have a committee. There's membership is made of people who are non-parliamentary.
No.
Alright, okay.
So that's the problem.
You can invite them.
Invite them,
right.
yes, correct.
They do invite
Invitation.
They invite people to come and address them, give input. That's fine. But they cannot sit as they can be experts even, coming into advice, but not sitting as members of the committee.
I think what needs to be done is that the relevant ministries should look into having different approaches. I mean, it's not necessary that you must always have a standing committee or you can open to public. They should find somehow to engage the public, the opposition, because we have to acknowledge that a two-party system is really existing in Malaysia. There is something that has not happened before 2008 in terms of the significance and the huge impact of it. So I think some of the people are becoming accustomed to it. Like when I tabled this opinion, I think the ministry all were quite acceptable, because to get this through, to open to the public, everything would need AG's approval. So these are the things that I hope the relevant ministry could take that as a first step. I mean, if the standing committee is something too far for them, maybe a first step is to engage the public, having it published on the website, getting comments. At least there is more avenue so that when it goes to Parliament, it's a debate on it, but at least it's something like it doesn't shock us. Like for instance, this recent bill, I think it comes as a shock to him. It comes as a shock to me also.
Islamic
yeah. At the I think if I'm not mistaken, I had a chance to glance through at 107, which states that either father or mother or guardian. I mean, who do we weigh whether the father or mother is more higher in terms of able to convert or things like that. So I think it is good that if we have some avenues to, before going to Parliament, at least a chance for all the relevant parties to have some feedback and input being placed in it. Of course, the government may not accept to it, and then that may be something that could be debated and brought forward in Parliament. But at least we are a bit more ready, in view of what you've mentioned also and what you've agreed, that the timing of our sessions are too short also sometimes. And the time that we have to debate this bill, for instance, this is the first reading. And then next week, they would probably be wanting to debate by, if I'm not mistaken, by the week after, I think they will be debating this.
We only have 4 days for this.
I believe yesterday they mentioned quite a number of bills they want to pass it by this session.
Yeah. So I think it's something that we really need to look into. I think it does help with having increased session, increased feedback, or even certain cases where some ministry agree to have a standing committee. It would definitely help in the check and balance process, which was why we mentioned.
Maybe Chua, actually I have this question to ask you as well. Okay, being a Barisan Nasional backbencher, I mean, admittedly you guys have a certain leverage in terms of parliamentary issues and whatsoever.
Leverage, as in?
Certain leverage as in a sense like, okay, you have the speakers with you. I mean, the deputies. I mean, you have 2 deputy speakers from the Barisan Nasional backbencher. This is an issue that I think opposition has also raised before. Do you agree, or do you accept, let's say for example, the notion of probably having a speaker, either one, at least one speaker, from the opposition bench, just to, in a sense, like you mentioned just now, the two-party system is actually quite clear in Malaysia, it's there already. So probably to get more participation, I mean, could be speaker or some other levels of, but you're trying to get the opposition to participate more on decision-making process. Maybe one step is to get at least one of the deputy speakers from the opposition bench. What do you think about that?
I think that is something that is not totally alien or totally impossible. But that would probably be required in terms of the leaders speaking to each other. I mean, not just in the federal level, maybe at the state level also, it has to be emulated or followed. And then if there is, I think, approach on the other side, I'm sure usually they will have some reciprocal approach. I mean, that's usually how it works. I mean, working together would be something, I would say, some people have not accepted. Some people still assume that there should be a one-party system. But I've went in politics in 2008, and I've begun to know that there is no such thing as a one-party system anymore. In any countries, it's the same also, even in Singapore now. So I think it's how to work together to make sure that the institution of the parliament is more effective, and what he has mentioned in terms of the standing committee, how to get more feedbacks, how to ensure that we have more time to debate on the bills. I think these are all relevant to the Barisan Nasional MPs also. We also hope that when the bill is passed or a bill is being put up, we have time to really scrutinize, because it will impact us also. Any bill that impacts them impacts us also. Because we cannot say for the next 50 years, we will always be the party that will govern.
The point you made about the deputy speaker, we don't have to go far, just look at Indonesia. Indonesia has the main speaker from the majority party, and they have about 7 or 8 deputies, because it's a big parliament, and they come from all the parties. The 6 or whatever, the larger parties, all have representation through the deputy speakers. And I think, of course, in most modern parliaments, the tradition of the independence of the speaker is quite important convention and principle. So we need to get there. So I would agree with that. The other convention that's important, which we need to get to, is the idea that, besides all the standing committees, an important standing committee is the Public Accounts Committee. Yes. And traditionally, in modern parliaments, democratic parliaments, that should be chaired by the opposition. So Selangor is again going to offer it. They're going to name the opposition as chairperson, and I think this time I hope that the BN opposition will accept the position, unlike last time when they rejected it. But so these are important institutional changes. I keep emphasizing that we need to do. But going back to what Chua did in the agriculture ministry is actually, the spirit of it is to be lauded. That's the correct thing. But I think the problem now is, if we take that approach now, it depends too much on the individual deputy minister or minister or whatever. That is
what I'm trying to say is that I'm hoping the rest of the ministry could move towards that. I'm not saying that it's just my personal effort.
No, but that's good. But the point is, we need to institutionalize. That's for the benefit of the country. And the way modern parliaments do that is through a committee system. That's what the mechanism is. And then you set the mechanism. Like what you did, you invited feedback. So the committees do that. It can be done through the internet. So many matters. You have public meetings. You sit in parliament, invite the experts to come. All that kind of things can happen.
But I have to add
so a bill, an important bill, gets far more time, the appropriate time which it needs. The detailed discussion. Like take this important bill which we are going to do in the last week of parliament. We have 4 days. There will be a number of bills, and I can imagine this bill will get maximum 1 day. 6 hours, 7 hours of debate, probably finishing at 12 midnight, And,
12 midnight, yes.
Yeah, which is also bad. It's unhealthy, it's unproductive. You cannot have, after 5:30, most people are tired. You start at 10 in the morning. By 5:30, 6 o'clock, you are brain tired, you are not thinking very well. And, but we are going to do that many days of the session. And, as my Chua said, it's not a desirable practice. So, and that's not an important. So that's what I mean. That's why the system has to change, and we hope we're going to initiate the discussion. Pakatan will raise it. I'm going to raise it in my speech. I think other MPs will say the same thing. But as you mentioned, maybe the leaders have to meet, and we find this common ground. To move forward with this institutional change.
To depoliticize certain things and trying to work on it.
Okay, this is something I'd like to ask you guys as well. These are changing times. Okay, since 2008, the politics in Malaysia have changed. Regardless of your political differences, there's one thing both of you share in common, is that both of you are in the two times backbenchers and 2 times MPs, and you guys are in the process of the change, whatever's political maturity or whatsoever is going on. Now, YB Chua, I'd like to ask you this question first. You are a young backbencher.
Yeah, he's also young. We're all young.
How do you envision? Okay, because you are one of those leaders who's going to be there probably in the next 20 years down the road. Okay.
I can't say that because every election there's no such thing as certainty.
But
hopefully,
20
years.
So
they say hopefully.
20 years down the road, what is the parliament that you envision 20 years down the road for our future generation? What is the parliament system that you envision as a Barisan backbencher?
I think 20 years from now, what I hope is that with the two-party system ongoing, I hope there could be more what you call discussions being held, maybe to especially certain issues that affects everyone to be depoliticized, to probably have some working groups, not necessarily formal or committee or what, but maybe our common ground discussion and way forward, having more resources for parliament members in terms of researchers that is maybe attached permanently to a member of parliament, whereby it's paid by parliament. Not necessary, because some people may think that you want a higher salary so you pay the researcher. The parliament can pay directly to the researcher, doesn't need to go through the member of parliament. Having more avenues in terms of maybe the relevant ministries engaging with more member of parliaments before they table a bill. I think these are the main things that I hope, basically.
Okay, what about you? How do you envision parliament the next 20 years?
20 years from now, well, there's a long time to wait, but I hope we get to what I'm going to say in far earlier than 20 years. But I would like to use the best practices of, say, the Indonesian parliament and, say, the New Zealand parliament, which are already there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can look at those examples and try to get our parliament there as quickly as possible. And the key features would be standing committees for all the key ministries, time for opposition business, which allows the opposition voice to also be heard in parliament, not just the government voice all the time. Effective question process, like what the New Zealand parliament does, which allows the parliament to be a more effective check and balance on the administration. And picking up on what Chua just said, resources for parliamentarians are very important. So the Indonesian parliament, for example, I mean, they are not rich. We are far richer than that.
And they sorry, work-life balance. Sorry. Sorry.
No problem. Every parliamentarian in Indonesia, regardless of your party, gets permanent staff, 4 or 5 staff, researchers, secretarial staff, etc.
Actually, in Taiwan also the same.
And there's no bias in terms of what party, whether you're government or opposition. Everywhere, Cambodia, a poor country, 2 staff. To help the parliamentarian. The point I'm making is it's given regardless of whether you're government or opposition, across the board. So that is an important feature. And we attract talented people to run, I'm not praising ourselves, but I think generally we can say most MPs have skills and expertise to offer. The people give them a mandate, but if you want them to function effectively as people's representatives, then you must give them the resources.
YB, a lighter side of things.
Sure.
Okay, your colleague from Barisan Nasional, he was a former Deputy Minister in Agriculture and Rural as well. 5 years you've seen him in Parliament. What are the things that you like about him in the last session? What are the things that you saw him doing as a Barisan Nasional backbencher and was as a Deputy Minister? What are the approaches that you see was very positive and very nice, very good about
well, I can say this. One of the unfortunately, the minority of the cabinet who would answer questions much more competently and professionally, rather than just indulge in rhetorical answers. And I think we saw him doing his job. I personally did not ask him any questions because somehow I don't.
You were more on the rights, legal
aspects. Yes. So I left that to my other colleagues who have an interest in
I would be very surprised if you stand up and ask about agriculture. I was like, yes.
although the part I only touched on agriculture in my speeches last time was in terms of connection with the Trans-Pacific the partnership agreement, which will have impact on agriculture, which I think is going to be a hot topic for discussion.
I think there were a few Barisan MPs that asked about the rice aspect.
Yes, rice
subsidy
exactly.
and things like that.
Yeah.
Because just a sideline a bit, because in a lot of European Union countries, America also included, they have huge subsidies for their agriculture, and I would say that the farmers play a huge role in their election every year.
Correct.
So that's the reason why the subsidies continue compared to Malaysia. And when they want a free market, it is actually not towards the benefit of Malaysia, because in terms of subsidies, we cannot compare to what is given to EU and America.
I think that's a very important point. America does this, and most industrialized countries do this for two reasons. One, they want food security. Food security means if I have an emergency outside in a war, I can close my borders and I can feed my people.
Yes.
So their priority is that. So they know they take money from the public purse to subsidize farmers. But now there's another dimension. With that cheap price product, the food product, they want markets. So they want us to open up our markets.
Correct.
So it's a double whammy. They're protecting themselves and now trying to threaten our farmers.
Chua,
Yeah.
what do you like about Sivarasa? For the last 5 years.
I think seriously, when I've seen him standing up and giving a lot of his speeches, at least one thing is he doesn't engage in rhetorics. Correct? You don't do that,
Yeah.
and he's not the type that becomes not calm. I mean, he stands up, he will try to present his case. Of course, sometimes when the speaker disallow him, he will be persistent. But I've not seen him being rude. That's something good about him. And I think most of the MPs from the opposition are unlike him. And some of them would tend to be rhetorics. He doesn't go and speak without the mic. He would definitely press the mic and speak. I've not seen him doing this kind of antics which is good to me.
Do you have any questions to ask before we end the session?
I think he became the one asking more
Yes.
questions. You already said that you are trying to build. Okay.
So with that, we'd like to thank both of you. Sorry
Thanks.
because of the half an hour's
Yeah.
time period. that
I
we
know.
had. So thank you very much.
Heading somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Thanks for.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you for your.
Okay. I hope you'll be debating on this.
No, definitely all
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.